Interviews are a key part of the job application process, and there are many different methods to answer interview questions. I'm sure you would have heard of the S.E.L.L Method. There's a simple yet effective interview technique that I've developed throughout my years as a pharmaceutical and biotech recruiter. I'm Amy, and I want to tell you about the evidence-based method for answering interview questions. But first, I have a free interview guide answering the top 10 toughest interview questions. See the link in the description box to download. So what is the evidence-based method? It's a 3-step interview method for answering interview questions. Step 1 is to tell your story. Step 2 is to back up your story with evidence. And step 3 is to provide lessons learned. I'll explain. So step 1 is to tell a story. In order to tell your story, you need to describe a particular situation or scenario. What are your roles and responsibilities? Step 2 is to provide evidence as proof of your skills and experiences. What actions did you take? What were the outcomes? Can you quantify your evidence? By quantifying evidence, I mean, can you explain any of your actions or outcomes using numbers? So for example, instead of saying something like, my role as a recruitment consultant involves making daily client phone calls, instead you would say, my role as a recruitment consultant involves making 50 client calls per day. See the difference? Using numbers upgrade your response and makes you sound more credible. Step 3 is to provide lessons learned. What would you improve in the future? Or what would you do differently if given another chance? Are there any transferable skills you can talk about? So, when providing your lessons learned, you can start your sentences like, from this experience, I learned that what I would do differently if given the chance is, the outcome of this project could have been improved by. These are just some examples of how to round up your answers. So now I'm going to show you a basic example of how to use the evidence-based method. If you were in an interview and you said you had strong communication skills, you need to prove it. You need to provide evidence. So instead of just saying, I have strong communication skills, you could instead say, I have strong communication skills from my 2 years of experience working as a sales assistant. In this role, I interacted with hundreds of clients every week, processing sales and solving difficult queries. I hope you can see that providing evidence drastically upgrades your answer. In this example, if you say you have strong communication skills, then the evidence is that you worked in sales and you successfully dealt with difficult clients. So remember, whenever you make statements about your skills, knowledge, and experiences, always think, where's the evidence? I need to prove what I'm saying by providing practical evidence. We can make this answer even better by adding lessons learned. Remember, the evidence-based technique is tell your story, provide evidence, and provide lessons learned. So let's go back to the example of the sales assistant with strong communication skills and add the lessons learned element. So here's an even better answer incorporating lessons learned. I have strong communication skills gained from my 2 years of experience working as a sales assistant. In this role, I interacted with hundreds of clients every week, processing sales and solving difficult queries. From this experience, I have improved my ability to clearly share my knowledge and ideas, and I can apply these skills in a new job role. So there are 4 main types of interview questions: situational, behavioural, competency, and technical-based interview questions. And the evidence-based method can be used to answer all these types of interview questions. Here's how. Situational and behavioural interview questions are very similar in that they both assess a candidate's ability to handle a certain situation or scenario, and they also assess a candidate's behaviour. The difference is that situational interview questions focus on future hypothetical scenarios, whereas behavioural interview questions focus on the actions and behaviours a candidate has taken in the past. So the difference is future actions versus previous experience. So an example of a situational interview question is, how would you handle a disagreement with your manager? And an example of a behavioural interview question is, tell me about a time you took a risky decision and it paid off. Situational and behavioural interview questions are so similar that they can be hard to differentiate sometimes. The good news is, though, that you can use the evidence-based method to answer both types of questions. Here's an example of how to answer a situational interview question using the evidence-based method. Remember, the evidence-based method is tell your story, provide evidence, provide lessons learned. So story, evidence, lessons learned. This gives the acronym S.E.L.L or S.E.L.L, and therefore the evidence-based method can also be called the S.E.L.L method for answering interview questions. Let's look at the situational interview question. Tell me about a time you made a mistake that affected a customer. How do you resolve the problem? I have a few examples of resolving problems at work, but one example I can give was when I worked as a customer service assistant at a major fast food restaurant. I served a customer who ordered a large cheeseburger meal, no pickles. It was a very busy day and unfortunately, I neglected to inform the kitchen staff of the no pickles order. When I served the customer her meal, she double-checked the burger before eating and informed me of the error. Naturally, she was very upset and it was my responsibility to resolve the situation and satisfy the customer, the evidence. I did this by acknowledging the mistake and apologizing for the error. I then sought to rectify the mistake by replacing the order with the correct meal, and I then confirmed with my manager that I could offer her a coupon towards her next meal, which she gladly accepted. Lessons learned. What I would do differently in the future is to immediately inform the kitchen of special orders as soon as I receive them. This experience has improved my ability to deal with mistakes by taking ownership of the situation and quickly providing a solution to fix the problem. Here's an example of how to answer a behavioural interview question using the evidence-based method. The question is, tell me about a time you went above and beyond at work. So remember, it's story, evidence, and lessons learned to answer this question. The story. In my previous job, I worked as a budget associate responsible for developing budgets for insurance services. We had a busy period where I was tasked with completing 3 large budgets within a tight time frame. I was able to complete my assigned workload 2 days before the submission deadline as I was organized and I prioritized my work. During our team meeting, the manager mentioned that a colleague had fallen behind with their workload due to a complex change to the budget requested by the client. They would need to work late in order to meet their submission deadline. The evidence. I volunteered to support this colleague by completing one of their budgets to ensure a timely submission. Together, we worked late 2 days in a row to ensure that all client questions were answered and that we delivered all budgets on time. Lessons learned. This experience further developed my time management and problem-solving skills, which are skills I know are essential for a senior budget associate role. I also learned that supporting my colleague in this way not only boosts productivity, but also promotes strong professional relationships at work. So in this example, this candidate told their story, which is they had a tight time frame to deliver a budget. They also gave evidence, and in this case, it was their actions and contributions, i.e. they volunteered to support their colleague by completing one of the budgets, and they provided quantifiable evidence, which is to deliver the budgets on time. Finally, they gave lessons learned. The next type of question is the competency-based interview question. A competency is the combination of your knowledge, skills, and characteristics that make you capable of successfully completing a particular task. Examples of key competencies are problem-solving, leadership, commercial awareness, assertiveness, decisiveness, and conflict resolution, to name a few. Here's how to answer a competency-based question using the evidence-based technique, which is story, evidence, and lessons learned. As previously mentioned, another name I have for the evidence-based method is the S.E.L.L or S.E.L.L method, which stands for Story, Evidence, and Lessons Learned. This acronym is much easier to remember because the point of an interview is to sell yourself and your skills to the employer. So remember, use the S.E.L.L method when answering interview questions. The question is, tell me about a time you led a challenging project. The competency being assessed is leadership. The story. I was the communications leader for the company's new brand rollout project. I led a team of 3 colleagues to ensure that key internal and external communications were delivered within the first 2 months of the new brand launch. The evidence. My strategy involved creating a structured plan to ensure key project milestones were met, and I did this by brainstorming with the team to identify key tasks that needed to be completed. The tasks included designing the communication and rollout calendar, running external adverts, organizing large events, as well as direct customer promotion events. I then finalized and distributed the tasks amongst the team members. For every task, there were challenging aspects such as difficulties overcoming rebranding resistance or difficulties hitting project milestones in a timely manner. I was able to support the team by redefining the strategies, actively communicating the rollout milestones, and leading the external email campaign. Our team was able to overcome project challenges, and we delivered the project on time and within budget. As a result of our campaign, the company website traffic increased by 18%. It was a challenging but rewarding project to be a part of. Lessons learned. Regular meetings with my team was essential to address potential issues quickly. I've learned that creating space for authentic communication enables a more smooth project progression. So in this example, the story was there was a new brand launch and a rollout calendar that needed to be delivered. For evidence, this candidate provided the activities and contributions they made, which is to create a structured plan, to support the team by redefining strategies, and actively communicating the rollout milestones. They also gave quantifiable evidence. For example, website traffic increased by 18%. And then they gave lessons learned. The next type of question is the technical interview question. Technical questions focus on the hard skills or the practical skills needed to do a job. For example, having an understanding of coding principles as a software engineer, or having knowledge of statistical methods as a data analyst, or having an understanding of instrumentation and process controls as an engineer. Of course, technical interview questions depend on your specific job role and industry. So for example, in a data analyst interview, a technical question could be, how would you handle missing values in a dataset? In a lab technician interview, a technical question could be, explain good laboratory practice. As you can see, technical interviews require you to have a strong understanding or practical experience and knowledge of how to do a particular job role. Here's an example of how to use the evidence-based method to answer a technical question in an accounting job interview. What type of accounting software have you used in the past? The story. I have 4 years of accounting experience, and I've used a variety of accounting softwares to improve accuracy and efficiency when performing financial processes. Some of the accounting software and tools I've used in the past include QuickBooks, Oracle Financials, and Microsoft Excel. The evidence. I've used QuickBooks to create and manage financial reports and transactions. I've used Oracle to perform reconciliations and Microsoft Excel to perform data analysis, budgeting, and forecasting. Lessons learned. Not only am I able to apply my experience of using these software to a new role, I am able to get up to speed with any new accounting software. And this is based on the fact that I've done this with other software tools in the past. I have advanced proficiency with Excel, and I would be keen to share this knowledge with a new team. So, when answering interview questions, always provide evidence and lessons learned as proof of your skills and experience. But it's not just about using a particular interview technique. Confident communication and positively expressing your personality are both important factors to passing your interview. You need to be confident and personable. but this is easier said than done. There are 2 things you can do to improve your confidence. The first is to be prepared, and the second is to practice. Let me explain. To be prepared, look up typical interview questions for the type of job you're applying to and prepare answers to these questions before your interview. So, prepare your stories beforehand. Another way to be prepared is to study the job description to understand the key skills that the employer is looking for and to talk about these key skills in your interview. The second step to improving your confidence is to practice. Do mock interviews with friends and family as often as possible to practice answering typical interview questions. Practice as much as possible, as this will help you remember your stories during interview. I have 3 bonus tips to help you pass your interview. Bonus tip number 1 is to reflect on your interviews. And by this I mean, take time to write down every single question you will ask during your interview. Think about the answer that you gave to those questions. Were they good answers, or could you have done better? Use these questions as practice for any other interviews you may have in the future. Bonus tip number 2 is to track your interviews using an interview tracker. The interview tracker can be made on Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, or even handwritten in your journal. Here's an example of an interview tracker. You need to be organized when job hunting, so track the following elements in your interview tracker: date, company, contact person, job title, stage of interview. You can even track the questions asked during the interview here, and also any feedback received from the interviewer. This will be a useful database of interview questions, answers, and companies for future job applications. I have a free interview tracker that you can download. Check the link in the description box. Bonus tip number 3 is to always ask questions at the end of an interview. Ask questions about the role, the company, the department, the team you'll be working in, the industry, the recruitment process, the next stage of interviews. Ask as many relevant questions as possible. Here's yet another freebie. I have a free guide on questions to ask at the end of an interview. Check the link in the description box to download. So, you're having lots of job interviews, but you still haven't been made a job offer as yet. So what should you do while you're waiting for a job offer? Keep applying for jobs. It's a numbers game, so apply for as many jobs as possible, at minimum 5 jobs per day. Ask for feedback from your interviewer whenever possible. Asking for feedback gives you an idea of your strengths, weaknesses, and things that you could improve on for your next interview. For example, you can say something like, based on the responses I've given, do you have any reservations about my ability to perform this role? You can also ask for feedback after you receive a rejection. You can find out why you were rejected so that you can improve on your next interview. If you're at entry level and you don't have much work experience, try to find voluntary work opportunities or internships to help you get your foot in the door. You can also do short courses to help strengthen your skills and knowledge. You can also apply for jobs through recruitment agencies to help you increase your chances of getting interviews. And while you're doing all this, stay positive and keep applying. It's a numbers game. If you're applying for lots of jobs and having interviews but you're not getting any job offers, don't give up. No just means next opportunity. Keep applying and updating your interview skills. The right opportunity will show up soon enough. Again, download my free interview guide on answering the top 10 toughest interview questions. Check the link in the description box.